Hey, welcome to Art with Ian. Today we're talking about character design. That's coming up next. All right, welcome to character design, the final episode. Today we're going to be talking about presentation. This is the final episode. I've really enjoyed this series. I hope you guys have too. So let's go ahead and look at a couple tips on why we do presentation, or why we worry about presentation. And then we'll go ahead, after this, we'll go ahead and jump into the process. So good presentation can be the difference between your work coming over to the client as amateurish or professional. So if they just get a character on a flat background, it just does it. Even though they didn't ask you to do a background, it won't look done to them. It'll look like you just kind of didn't care, or you just don't have that professional edge. So that's got to be, you have to take that initiative and put that final last look into your work so that it feels professional. Presentation can ground our characters without the need for extraneous effort to paint a detailed environment. So basically, it's a lot of bang for your buck. You don't have to do a bunch of work to create a nice little presentation, but yet it's still going to ground the characters. It gives them something to stand on. You know, you're putting a ground plane in the image. Even as vague as it might be, it still exists. You can drop a shadow onto it, and your characters won't look like they're just floating in space, basically. And lastly, it allows us to set a mood, further pushing any aspect of the design we feel would benefit from it. So in the case of the Merc team, the mercenary team that we're doing, it's sci-fi, and so the presentation, I'm doing like this clean white light kind of a feel, and that's just further selling that sci-fi feel that I'm going for. And you could do this for any genre of like character design. What you do with that presentation can help that final sell point for what it is you're doing. Anyways, so those are the few tips for why this is such an important part of the process, to not just say the characters are done, I'm done, just put in that little bit of extra effort. So okay, let's go ahead now and jump over to the process. Okay, so we've got all 5 of our characters for this mercenary team all painted up now, and basically I got it where I like it, but the presentation is pretty poor at this point. Just pretty plain. I've got this little bit of a rectangle behind them to help them kind of pop and give them something to overlap, but it's still feeling pretty plain. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to turn the layer mode of this rectangle, I'm going to turn that to multiply. Just not only does it darken it a bit, but also no matter what I do behind it now, things will kind of show through. It'll become interactive. Okay, so now I'm going to create a new layer over the top of my gray background layer. I'm going to set this to overlay. I'm going to come get a pretty bright, very bright gray. And check my brush. I'm gonna use this soft round pressure, opacity, and flow. I want a lot of control with this. Blow it up. And the first thing I'm gonna do, since I have top-down light and my shadows establish that light is pretty pushed for these shadows to show up, I'm gonna start pushing that light just down onto this ground right here where they're at. And we're doing a bit of a sci-fi presentation, so I want that white light, I want that kind of clean look. Like, it could also be done in a kind of a gritty way, where maybe they're on their ship or they're in some kind of a gritty environment. But for the presentation of just the characters, the client's not asking us to give them this crazy background. So what we want to do is create the most professional looking thing we can without spending almost any time on it. We want to get it done as quick as possible so that it looks good, looks professional, the presentation is good, but we didn't spend time that they didn't ask us to spend. They're not paying us to design a background. They're paying us for the characters, but we want to send them their characters with a nice presentation. This is something we're doing on our end to set ourselves apart from maybe the other artist who says, "Oh, they hired me to do characters. Here are your characters," and they don't think about it any beyond that, you know. So we've got a bit of this happening now, and it's just starting to help push that feeling like they're kind of spotlighted a little bit. I don't want it to feel too spotlighted. Make sure we're feathered. And now you just kind of get that sense that the light is hitting them, and that's what's causing those shadows to exist. Also, the floor looks clean and reflective and helps to push the believability of the glowing objects reflecting off the floor. I'm not going to go as far as to do reflections of them because of the perspective we're in right now. To do reflections of them would require a lot of work, and I just don't think that that's really, again, you have to make decisions about how much time you're spending on this because they're not paying you for that. So let's create a new layer. We're going to leave our light, our color, or our light gray where it is. We're going to also set this to overlay. And over here, we're going to click on the bucket, but I'm going to right click it and grab the gradient tool. Make sure the gradient tool is this far left one set to linear. And holding shift, I'm going to drag down. That's going to keep it perfectly straight. I'm going to drag down and create a gradation of light above them, which is going to help these silhouettes to pop pretty hard. You'll have to decide here with your work, is it lighter? Are the characters lighter or darker as an overall look? If they're lighter, you'll want dark background. If they're darker, you'll want light background. Just whatever creates the most contrast. So we can even actually try this just to show you. We'll set it to multiply. We'll bring the gray way down dark and see what it looks like dark. And that looks pretty darn cool too, I'm not gonna lie. I like that as well, but as far as getting a read to pop, like especially on Nanki, I've put I've grayed him down to help make sure res and mica pop off of him. And by doing that, it doesn't sell that graying down as well. He kind of looks washed out with that dark background. It's kind of overselling what I've done to him to make him feel like he's pushed back. So it's not actually helping us push him back, it's actually going against us. For that reason, we're going to go with washing out the background. See, now he doesn't look as washed out. I'm allowing myself to wash him out for the sake of popping my characters over the top of him without him looking washed out over the background. That's the ideal scenario here. So we could leave it like this, but I think that we could probably do just a little bit better. This rectangle back here feels a little bit boring still, and we don't want to make it too interesting because then it could potentially start grabbing the viewer, and we want the characters to be the very obvious area of interest. But let's go ahead and create a layer over the top of that. And use a pretty dark gray. I'm going to change my brush to just the hard round brush and size it way down. And holding down the shift key, I'm going to just run a line across, and that's actually too thick still. So I'm going to size it down a couple more notches. We want this to be pretty subtle. I'm going to run one there, run one along there, and we can also, let's create a rectangle within with we're using the marquee tool for this. And while we have that selected, let's just go up here to edit and stroke. And I've got it set to 7 pixels right now. Based on the size of my canvas, I'd say that's probably pretty good. The color is automatically set to what I've been using, and I want to carry on with that, so I'm going to hit OK. Let's deselect and see what we got. That feels pretty similar. Oh, wow, that actually came out almost identical. Nice. So that's pretty good. But it still feels like maybe it could have a little bit more uh, life than what we've got here. Just a little more of a sci-fi mood. So I'm going to click a point here, click a point here, and we'll eventually erase that out. And I think I'll do the same up here. This doesn't have to be like perfectly 45. It's just something close, So let's go ahead and grab an eraser. Make sure that's on hard round. And come over here and do this one. Oh, I accidentally got into it a little bit, unfortunately. Should probably zoom in a little bit to make sure we're getting this actually lined up better, but it's weird, it's behaving funny. It's acting like I had it set to pressure, but I don't know why. Okay, so there's a little bit of that. Maybe we could run just like another little inside, kind of like this sort of a thing. Maybe do like a dot and then like a line. Just you kind of get the picture, right? Just very subtle, but still that should probably be more similar to the distance of the other one. Something like this. Just like really, really subtle stuff. Just little bits of like that. And then that's probably as far as I would go with it. When, because they're only asking for characters, what you do with the presentation is really, you're walking a fine line. You don't want them to think that you're charging them for this really, like overworked backdrop. I'm just wondering if maybe if you hold shift, if you click a layer and hold shift, you can select more than one. I'm just wondering about maybe sizing this down so it doesn't actually go off the page. And again, holding shift to draw straight verticals or straight horizontals. If you're not aware, to create straight diagonals, you click a point, you hold shift, and then you click another point. And that's how you create straight diagonals. Let's see here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then you could maybe create one more layer and maybe do like, oh, I need to get my pressure brush. Maybe do like whoa, that M got out of control. You can maybe do like Merc Team 1 or something like that. And then so if they ask for a new iteration, you would just go in there and change that to 2 and 3. That gives them a very small little like visual cue, like, by the way, this is the second, now this is the third, now, hopefully it doesn't go beyond 3 time I've changed something for you and sent it back. And that they might not even really focus on it, but it's just there. It's a very, I find it just kind of helps. Then you kind of look at your overall, you see what you got going on, if you can improve anything. I've got a CD for group, so this is color dodge. This is a group color dodge, right? So I'm using it, it's like last looks kind of a color dodge. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can just create a bit of bloom up here. That might be too strong. Get back to my feathered eraser, soft eraser. That's pretty bold, but we'll go with that, I think. And then also just little bits where the light is gleaming off some of our brightest points. Just run through, find some areas where you think it should get hit a little harder. This is all hit pretty hard already. Maybe right here on his. I never did quite hit this. Maybe make that glow a bit. Tiny bit on his leather. Let's see, maybe here. Along here. Here. No, that's too much. You gotta be really careful with color dodge. It can be really over the top if you're not careful with it. All right, and maybe one last thing. Actually, you know, I kind of want, before I do that, I kind of want to pull my eraser back up. I think I want to cut these angles to match now that we can see the edges. There we go. Let's I have no idea, but my hard round brush is behaving like it's got pressure sensitivity on it, and I don't know why. It's really weird, but kind of horrible because it's not what it should do, obviously. Okay, and then up over here, do the same. Of course, now we're going to lose our underline for this. Maybe I could just leave that. I think I will. Leave that in. Look at my brush. Size it way, way down. Hit that. Hit that. I think maybe breaking this up will be beneficial. Just like that. Okay. And last but not least, I usually like to do at the very top of everything an adjustment layer and exposure. Turn the gamma correction up just a tiny bit, and then maybe just barely hit the exposure a tiny bit. And that just kind of pushes everything that little bit, and it just brings a richness to it. You can see kind of that richness it adds. and I'm pretty much gonna call that one. So yeah, that's basically how, if I, for this scene, if this was going to a client and I had finished these characters and I was going to send it over to them, that's probably pretty close to how. I mean, I might take a little more time than I am on the video, just because for the video I don't want to just sit and noodle on this forever. But yeah, that's pretty good presentation, and we did it in a matter of, I don't know how time flies when you're doing these. When I do these videos, I lose track of time a little bit, but it doesn't seem like it took that long. Certainly, it's quick enough to be worth doing to get your presentation up to the level that is going to make a client really see your work at its best. If I had just sent these characters on a plain background, it wouldn't have the impact that when they first open up that email, they're going to go, oh, nice. They're going to be hit immediately by the overall image. Then they'll start to pick apart the characters and how well they meet the needs of the design specs. But if you can hit them with that initial wow moment where they're really happy with what they see, they're going to receive everything else in a better light afterwards, after that moment. So highly recommend presentation. Take a moment to do that. So that's going to wrap it up for this series. I really, really enjoyed this series. I've got a link on my Discord for the specs so that you can design along with this. I'm going to leave open a channel. Well, I have a channel on my Discord where people who join in can post their work and we can talk about it. My Discord is pretty brand new, so there's not a lot of people in there yet. Feel free to join. There's a link, like I said, in the description of this video to join the Discord. There's also a link in the video to get to the Google Doc that has the design specs for these characters that I used. If you just want to do that and not share it, that's totally cool too, I understand. But anyways, it would be great if you did share, join the Discord. I'm trying to build a community. I'd love to see you guys there. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the new year. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications of future videos, and I will see you guys in 21. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, share it with your friends, ring the bell for notifications of future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.